polynomial, quadratic polynomial, cubic polynomial. Now we will find the value of a polynomial at some point. Okay, so value of a polynomial at x is equal to k. Let us consider a k. K is any constant. We have to find the value of polynomial at that particular point. Now one example, like p of x is equal to x square minus 3x minus 4 at x is equal to minus 2. So p of minus 2 is equal to, we will put the value of this constant in place of x. Like x is equal to minus 2. So in this polynomial, we will replace x by minus 2. Minus 2 square minus 3 into minus 2 minus 4. By calculating 4 plus 6 minus 4 equal to 6. So at x is equal to minus 2, this polynomial gives 6. So value of the polynomial at this point is 6. Similarly, we can find value of any point at the given polynomial. Okay. Now we move on to what is the zero of a polynomial. Zero of a polynomial in a real number a is the zero of a polynomial px if p of a is equal to 0. P of a means that you are given one point, at that constant the polynomial gives you 0. Zero of a polynomial वो वैल्यू है हमारे polynomial की जब कि वो पॉइंट पुट करने पे हमारा polynomial 0 बन जाए. जैसे कि हम एग्जांपल लेते हैं क्वाड्रेटिक पॉलिनोमियल है. इस क्वाड्रेटिक पॉलिनोमियल पे हिट एंड ट्रायल मेथड लेते हैं. You have learned in 9th class hit and trial method, splitting the middle term. So you can find the zeros of this quadratic equation by the splitting the middle term also. So let us do by hit and trial method. So on putting minus 1 in place of this variable, we get this polynomial 0. So minus 1 will be called the zero of a polynomial because on putting this point, this polynomial becomes 0. So the point is called the zero of the polynomial. If putting that point in that particular polynomial, the polynomial becomes 0, is called the zero of a polynomial. We will take another example. It is a linear polynomial. How to find the zero of a polynomial? We will put this polynomial equal to 0. We will find the value of x. So this value of x, on putting in this polynomial becomes 0. So this value of x is called the zero of the polynomial. Likewise, p of x is equal to 0, 2x minus root 5 is equal to 0, 2x is equal to root 5 and x is equal to root 5 by 2. So if we put x is equal to root 5 by 2 here, p of x becomes 0. So this is called the zero of a polynomial. Zero of a polynomial is that constant which makes the polynomial 0 at that point. Okay? We'll take another example. This. For quadratic equation, splitting the middle term, we can find the zeros of that quadratic equation. So using the splitting the middle term method, x square minus 3x plus 2x minus 6 equal to 0. This is a quadratic polynomial in general form, ax square plus bx plus c. In the splitting the middle term, what we do is we write b as sum of any two numbers. Any two numbers. So splitting the middle term हम कैसे करते हैं किसी भी polynomial की, कि अगर हमें polynomial given है तो हम उसका जो b है वो हम ऐसे लिखते हैं sum of any two numbers. मतलब कोई भी दो नंबर्स का हम सम करें तो वो b के इक्वल आ रहा हो और उन्हीं सेम नंबर्स का हम प्रोडक्ट कर रहे हो तो वो c के इक्वल आ रहा हो. a c के इक्वल आ रहा हो उन्हीं दो नंबर्स का प्रोडक्ट. ऐसे हम splitting the middle term करते हैं. So in this case, when we add minus 3 and 2, we get minus 1, and when we multiply by minus 3 and 2, we get minus 6. So in this case, likewise, when we multiply minus 3 and 2, we get 6, and when we add minus 3 and 2, we get minus 1. So these are, in this way we can find the zeros of the polynomial. So here two zeros are x is equal to minus 2 and x is equal to 3. Okay, these are two are the zeros of this quadratic polynomial. Now we take another example of cubic polynomial. In cubic polynomial, 1 0 we have to find by hit and trial method always. So 1 0 we will find by hit and trial method, generally we start with putting x is equal to plus minus 1. Then we check x equal to plus minus 2. Similarly, we go on checking, and at one point we get the polynomial 0 of polynomial. So 1 of the polynomial in this case will be x1. So we will put p of 1 cube. In this way we can find 1 0. So x minus 1 becomes the factor of this polynomial. Because on putting 1, this polynomial becomes 0. So x minus 1 is a factor of this. Now for further, we have to divide x minus 1 by this cubic polynomial. So by dividing this x minus 1 by this cubic polynomial, we get a quadratic polynomial. Now further, we have to do splitting the middle term of this quadratic polynomial, and we get other 2 zeros of the cubic polynomial. Division, I hope you know, x minus 1, when we divide by this, so we'll take here factor x square. X into x square becomes x cube, minus 1 into x square becomes minus x square. Changing the sign, minus plus, this cancels out, and here becomes minus plus minus 5x square plus 11x. Then we'll take factor minus 5x here. Minus 5x into x becomes minus 5x square. Minus 5x into minus 1 plus 5x. Changing the signs, this cancels out, and we get 6x. Again plus 6. 6 into x, 6x. 6 into minus 1, minus 6. These both cancels out, 0. This is the question. Further splitting the middle term of this quadratic polynomial, we get these 2 zeros of this quadratic polynomial, and these 3, 1, 2 and 3, these 3 are the zeros of this cubic polynomial. So we can see the fact that if the polynomial is a linear polynomial, we get 1 0. If the polynomial is a quadratic polynomial, we get 2 zeros. If the polynomial is a cubic polynomial, we get 3 zeros. So in general, if we have an n degree polynomial, we will get n zeros of that polynomial. So number of polynomials will be equal to the degree of the polynomial. Degree of the polynomial gives us the number of zeros of the polynomial. Now we will do geometrical meaning of the zeros of a polynomial from an NCERT book. Geometrical representation, we will see by a graph that how we can find the zero of a polynomial, and what happens if the graph cuts the x-axis. Okay. Now first, linear polynomial, we will draw a linear polynomial on a graph. In your previous classes, you have done how to plot a points of a line on a graph. So you will, in this case, your polynomial is 2x plus 3. You will take 2, 3 points and plot them, and you will get a line on a graph. So when you draw this line on a graph, this line cuts the x-axis. The number of time it cuts the x-axis, you will get the number of zeros. So in case of a linear polynomial, you will get 1 0. So the line will cut the graph once, x-axis. Like at one point only, this value will give this polynomial becomes 0 at only one value. So at that value, which polynomial becomes 0 is this, minus 3 by 2. So minus 3 by 2 is a 0 of a polynomial, and this is a point on x-axis. Okay, so this is only the one point on x-axis which cuts this graph. So number of times the polynomial cuts the graph, that will give you the number of zeros of a polynomial. So in linear polynomial case, the graph will be cut only once, so you will get 1 0. You can draw any line, any linear polynomial, so you will see that it cuts the x-axis only once. In second case, quadratic polynomial. Now in order to draw a quadratic polynomial graph, you can take the points, you will take 5, 6 points at least to see the curve, how it moves on the graph paper. So in this case, we are having polynomial x square minus 3x minus 4, and you will see the values, take some values, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and we will plot them on this graph. You will see upward curve. So this is known as parabola. So upward parabola you get. And this parabola cuts the x-axis at 2 points. And you know quadratic polynomial has 2 zeros. So this parabola cuts the graph at 2 points x-axis. You will see how many times it cuts the x-axis. So in this graph, x-axis is cut by at 2 points. So similarly, in some quadratic equation, you may get downward parabola. Only the point you have to say is how many times this parabola cut the x-axis. So that number of zeros will be in that polynomial. So in this in the quadratic polynomial, you will have 3 cases. Like you will have 3 cases. Likewise, you will have if the polynomial is of this form, x square minus 5x plus 6, and you can do splitting the middle term, you will find 2 zeros. The 2 zeros may be distinct. When you get distinct zeros. And second case, when you get same zeros. Likewise, in this case, you in this polynomial px, x square plus 4x plus 4, this becomes x plus 2 ka whole square, and it is having only 1 0, minus 2 and minus 2 repeated zeros, same and repeated zeros. And in third case, you may not have any zero, like in this polynomial, in this quadratic polynomial x square plus 1, you will not get any x for which this polynomial becomes 0. X square plus 1 is equal to 0, x square is equal to minus 1. Is there any number whose square is equal to minus 1? No, because on squaring the number you always get a positive quantity. Okay, so there is no real root for this type of polynomial. So there will be 3 cases in the quadratic polynomial, that there may be distinct roots, same zeros, and no zero. In this case, they have discussed case 1, when 2 zeros, when the polynomial cuts at 2 points on x-axis, they may be like this or like this. Then you will have distinct zero. 1 0 will be here, 1 will be here, 1 will be here, other will be here. So likewise, you will have one type of graph, or other type when you have same zeros. Both zeros occur at same point. So it may be this type of graph, it may be this type of graph. Both the zeros are same. And in third, you may not have any zero. The graph may not cut x-axis. So in this types of parabolas, it is not cutting our x-axis. For any point it will not cut, so we will not get any zeros. So for quadratic polynomials, we will have 3 cases. These are the 3 cases. And we can judge by seeing the graph that how many zeros it have. Okay. Now we will plot the graphs of cubic polynomials. So cubic polynomial graph will cut the x-axis 3 times. Likewise here 3 times. So this shows that it is having 3 separate zeros, distinct zeros. And in this, it is having 3 separate zeros. One is here 0, and this is having two separate zeros because it is touching x-axis 2 times, 1 2. Okay. Similarly, you can see how many zeros the graph have. So this is the example 1 of our NCERT. Look at the graphs given below. Each is the graph y is equal to px. Px is a polynomial. For each of the graph, find the number of zeros. So these are some of the graphs in which you have to tell the number of zeros. First graph, it is cutting y-axis, x-axis once. We have to see how many times it cuts x-axis. So it is cutting x-axis once. So it will having 1 0. 2 times it will having 2 zeros. 3 times it is having 3 zeros. This polynomial is having 1 0. This polynomial is having 1 0. This polynomial is having 1 2 3 4 zeros. So you have to see how many times the curve cuts x-axis. That will give you number of zeros of that polynomial. Similarly, you can try the exercise 2.1 of your book, and in the next video we will discuss the relation between the zeros and the coefficient of a polynomial. Thank you.